Good morning. It's Sunday, December 19th. And I read an article in The Hill, and it talks about this TV show that I never heard of. It's a comedy show, Charlemagne the God. And he is interviewing Kamala Harris. And he says to Kamala Harris, "Who is the president of this country?" And she's stumped by the question, and he says, "Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is the president of this country." So when Kamala hears that, she answers angrily, "Joe Biden is the president of this country, and don't you forget it. And I am the vice president of this country." And then she proceeds to enumerate the many different things that the Democrats are trying to get pushed through in all of their bills. And it deals with the mortality rate of pregnant black women versus white women who are pregnant. And it deals with child care. And it deals with getting the lead out of the water. And it deals with many, many other things. And she's absolutely right. But the problem is they're not getting done fast enough. And the problem is that you have Joe Manchin and Sonoma standing in the way constantly. So I guess one could look at this and say, Joe Biden is not the president. Manchin is the president because he controls everything. His vote is very important. It's like a king. They can't do anything without his vote. And that's the biggest problem that we have in this country. We have a government that is split asunder. So even though there are 50 other members of the Senate besides Joe Manchin, he's the only one that counts because the Republicans, they won't step out of line. They won't vote with the Democrats on anything. And it doesn't matter what it is. It has no bearing on anything. It's just the fact that the Democrats have it, and therefore we're not voting for it. And that's what the problem in this country is. And that's the way the problem is going to be until one side or the other gains the majority. And then if the other side wins, this side won't vote with them either. So I think that was a great question, and I think that was a terrific answer that he said that Joe Manchin is the president. And of course, Harris is very, very upset by that. But if you step back and you look at the situation in this country right now, you can see that the host, Charlemagne the God, the host, had a good point. And why? Why is it that Joe Manchin is locked into his positions? He's locked into his positions because he believes the people in West Virginia are being threatened by the rest of the country. He believes that the coal mining industry, which is primarily the major industry in West Virginia, is threatened by climate change and by gas emissions and all of those things that we can actually see affecting the atmosphere. I mean, we have tornadoes, we have terrible things that have happened in this country. Fires out on the West Coast, and they're not stopping. So who could argue that there's climate change? And who could argue that the fumes from gasoline and coal are causing these things? We can't argue with that fact. And therefore, something has to change in West Virginia and in other parts of the country. Maybe Texas, because they got oil companies. Trouble is all over. And the fact that Joe Manchin is so powerful now is because they need his vote. One vote. And then you have the young lady from Arizona, Sonoma, who votes with Manchin quite often. Although she claims that she's defending the rights of the people in Arizona. So let me ask you something. Here we are, a country, 330 million people spread across the United States. But we're all little fiefdoms. Every state is a fiefdom. And you can't get all the states to communicate with each other. And they can't work together because every one of those states has some individual thing that's very important to them. Right? So how do we expect to get anything done if we can't get a government that's willing to work together? If every state has a different opinion of the way the country should run. This is a flawed democracy, an extremely flawed democracy. One might even say it's totally broken, because if you look at things across this country, the people who live in the big cities are primarily run by Democrats. The small towns and the rural areas are run by the Republicans. And right now there's a split in the country, and it's pretty close to even, as we saw in the election. It was 74 million people voted one way and 81 million people voted the other way. And you want to know something? That's only 66% of the number of people who are available to vote. So you got a large pocket of people that haven't voted at all. And that's another problem in our democracy. We don't get the vote out. And why? Why is it? Is it voter suppression? Yeah, in some places it is. The indigenous people in places like Montana and Idaho, they don't get a chance to vote because they have voting rules about your address. And if you don't have a street address, which they don't on some reservations, then you can't vote. P.O. Box address is no good. You can't vote. So there's all kinds of things that affect the voting in this country and affect the thing. But the bottom line is that Manchin right now is the evil person, and he's standing in the way of everything. And you got to kowtow. And Joe Biden hasn't been able to get him on his side. He hasn't been able to give him what he wants. And that's another problem in this country. It's a tit for tat, you know. I give you something, you vote with me. I don't give you something, you don't vote with me. And Manchin's afraid to spend money. And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. A lot of the things that they have put on the table are very expensive. And I don't know how we're going to pay for them. But in any event, they do have to get done. We do need a lot of these things. We certainly need more and better child care. We need better education for everybody, not just for the privileged people who can afford to live in a place and pay a higher tax rate so their kids get educated better. That is a terrible situation. That is wrong, absolutely wrong. Education should be given out to everybody equally. It's ridiculous that we live on Long Island and we have 132 different school districts. Talk about pissing money away. 132 school districts, 132 superintendents of schools making big bucks. That's ridiculous. We should have one school district or two school districts on Long Island, one in Nassau County, one in Suffolk County, and be done with it, and make sure that no matter whether you live in Wyandanch or Hempstead or Smithtown or Huntington or Dix Hills or Great Neck, you should all get an equal education. The education should be absolutely the same all over Long Island. And there I've gotten off topic already. I'm telling you Joe Biden is the president. I'm telling you he's not doing a great job. He's not forceful enough. And I'm going to leave it at that this morning. So have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.